I was looking around for some Squareline Studio tutorials online, and I couldn't find any really good and simple ones that outlined the process of building a project from all the way from the beginning to the end. And so I thought I would record my own. And let's start by explaining what Squareline Studio is. So this is a simple drag and drop UI editor that you can use for various projects, various project types. In this example, I'm going to use it to build a simple UI for an Arduino project. And as you can see, it comes in a trial version and you can try out for 30 days. So I already built one and it's really easy to use. So let's just get started, and I think I will just explain the key steps as I go on. And this actually shows you what types of projects you can build using Squareline Studio. But we're interested in Arduino, and this uses the TFT ESPI library, or eSPI. So we're going to select that. I will leave all these settings as they are, but you could, for example, turn on multi-language or choose between a light and dark theme, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. Nope. I'm going to give it a different name. Alright, and it will drop you into this first screen that's empty. And if you've worked with these types of programs before, this will all be quite familiar. So you have multiple screens, you can add a couple more if you want to. I think the demo version here is limited to a specific number of screens, but I just can't recall right now how many that is. But we won't need that many anyway. So let's start with the main dashboard screen, which I think I'm going to call the main screen. And I think it's good practice to always give your components appropriate names here, so you can actually refer to them in this hierarchy and easily find what you're looking for. And this won't be a fancy UI, so don't expect any, UI design tips. It's just to illustrate the workflow in Squareline. And I will start with one thing that I noticed. If you add a button here, you just kind of click this and it's going to add it, but you could, I think, no, you cannot drag and drop it in here. But you can click it and it's going to turn up here on your main screen, the currently selected one. So I'm going to call this one on button. And I mean, I know there might be, again, better ways of doing this, but this is how I will do it. I will set the width to 45. Actually, it's a little bit, say 50, and height to 45. It's fine. And the thing about this is, it is, as you can see, you can drag it around the screen. I will update it here. You could position it with absolute coordinates, which I will do for this tutorial because it's such a small, non-responsive UI, so that's going to work just fine. I'm also going to put this up to -50, but what you could do is, if you don't want to use absolute coordinates, you can always click this little arrow icon and then it gives you some more options. In this case, you could also use percentages, but like I said, it's such a simple thing. I'm just going to build it like this. So one more thing I noticed is, if you're looking through this inspector here, you can see several tabs, or sections that is, and typically you would look for something like a text property, right? But these, for whatever reason, they don't have it, so you need to add a label, and it's going to again add it to the selected screen. So you can just drag and drop it onto the button. So now it's part of the button. You can see I already center it too. And I like to call these the same name as the button plus label, so I know what it is. You can set it to on. Good. So that's our first button done. And now I want to have the same button next to this, right? So I can use this little copy thingy. It's going to duplicate the button. And call this one off button, and appropriately this one off button label. I'm going to change the text to off. Alright. And again, absolute coordinates are just fine for this example. So I will just move this to like, that's a little bit too far, say 25. And as you can see here, yeah, this is not very, I mean, let me just finish this real quick before I get into anything else. So let's say I want to call this one settings button, right? And settings button label. And I think I will just go through the entire process here, and not cut the video. I will try to keep it as short as I can. But we will see how that turns out. So let's put this to, I think, 115. Yeah. Are these transformed? Yeah, they are, but anyway, I will fix that later. So let's go to this and let's change this to settings. And again, duplicate, remove it down a bit. Say 35 again. And options button. And I mean, you might be asking yourself, what's the difference between settings and options? Probably isn't one, but again, it's just an example UI. So let's just see, call some options. I guess what I wanted to do is one of the buttons will take you to the device settings. This is a remote controller for a device, and the other one is going to change the options of the device itself, of the controller itself, this UI. Yeah. Now, these buttons, they don't have very descriptive names at this point. I also don't like the layout here. Let me just kind of -30. Okay. I will just kind of position these. Yeah, this is one which probably would have worked much better with relative. I think it's 32 for whatever reason. It's so doesn't make sense, right? It should be 35, but it's anyway. Good. So let's, as you can see, these buttons now, while they are good now, right? It's all just one color. It's pretty boring to look at. Also, it's not very descriptive of what these buttons do. So I want the on button to be green, and we can change various things here in the style area. So we'll just change this to some non-offending green, and this here to some non-offending red color. Say that one that works with the white text as well. And the same for these. I want these to be gray, so that users can immediately see this is not the main option, right? They are like working with here. And alright, that's good. Of course, you can just, why is this not okay? Good. You can just copy this value and then just paste it in here. Or what you could have done, if you were smarter than you could have just changed it first and then copied it, right? Because it's going to copy the settings too. Oh yeah, and if you want to remove an element, you can of course just use the trash can or just hit the delete key on your keyboard. Now let's save this because I want to show you something. For whatever reason, the undo function here does work, but it's implemented a little iffy. So if you just undo this, it sometimes undoes multiple steps. Okay, of course it doesn't happen this time, so it might have just been a bug. But there we go, that's the main screen. So I just locked this, which means you cannot, or you shouldn't actually be able to change it, but maybe it just prevents it from deleting. Okay, so yeah, locking this just prevents it from deleting. And as you can see, this is also a learn as I go experience for myself. So I haven't used this particular program in not just quite a while. I haven't used it quite a bit either. But let's add a second screen here for the settings, and so I'm going to call this settings screen. And for this one, I want to have a little more complicated UI elements, not just standard buttons. So we'll add a panel, and I will name this update time panel. And you can use these panels to group multiple elements, which in this case is going to be a switch and a label. Again, I'm just kind of drag and drop these into the panel so that they're like part of that panel. Add this. I want to have, I think 255 worked pretty. Let's actually go 275. Height 35. And as you can see now, it has this really weird shadow, and also it has a slightly different background color, but you can't see that right now. So first of all, let's turn off the shadow. I think I selected the wrong thing. No, it just doesn't want to turn off then. Okay, that's, oh, maybe. Okay, for whatever reason, it decided not to turn off. Good, but let's just pretend it turned off the shadow. Seems to be a little, maybe it's a beta version, I don't know. Does it have? No, it seems to be a stable release. Anyway, okay, so it doesn't turn off the shadow for whatever reason, but that's fine. And you would also find if the shadow weren't there, you could see that the background color is actually slightly off. What you can do is you can just kind of set it to transparent here. So the switch is update time switch. Again, I'm going to change the width a bit, but particularly the height, because I think it's way too tall. Move it over, say, 100. Again, it would look much better without the shadow, but let's kind of maybe like, yeah, maybe like that. It's zoomed in a bit too much here. The text, I will just call update time over. I'll just use it like that. And the text, the font size is a little bit too large. Again, you can change the style down here. Go to font and I choose 12. But you should keep in mind that the display, you know, where this UI will show up might be quite limited in its size. So you want these elements to be, you know, easy to click for users. I'm actually a little bothered by this not turning off, but anyway, I forgot to name the label. So update time label. So once you build a custom component like this, you can go up here to components, and then you can create a new custom component that you may call whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to call it one panel group, just for this example. Hit create, and it will show up down here in your custom component. Note that in, whoop, you see, this is what I mean. If you undo, it sometimes behaves erratically, and now my stuff is gone, which sucks. So let me just open this again. Yeah, should remind, oh. Alright, so I just restarted Squareline Studio here. Let's see if it's back. No, it's gone. Great. Anyway, great thing. I think I was, let me just continue here. So you can now drag this in here, right? And then you can have multiple copies of this custom component that you just created. And something that they updated in the most recent version apparently is that you can change the settings of just one of these instances without changing the entire prefab, so to speak. So say we want to have the background color, or you should be able to do it. Yeah, the program is a bit buggy, in its current state. And you know, let me just open up a previous version that I created earlier, and let's just hope that this is still there. Okay, so yeah, this is, you know, the same thing. So these are the panels here, but it's just a little more fleshed out. I also added this third panel down here with just a couple of sliders where I changed the colors to represent red, green, and blue, so I don't have to add any labels. Let's just pretend the program never crashed and all my stuff was still there. Yeah. For the settings, I actually don't even know what I want to put in there, so let's just let me just copy this panel. I'm not even sure, did it copy it? Let's see, no. Good. And then just kind of drag and drop it onto this screen. Yeah, I think this is still a pretty new program, so, you know, let's just say bugs happen, it's not so bad, but it should remind you to save, you know, your project regularly if you don't want to lose your progress. Send statistics. I'm just making stuff up here, it doesn't really have any relevance to the project. I just want to have something on the screen so we can actually see what's going on. Good. And also this one. Send statistics label. Share usage statistics. Good. That's fine. This is all we want to do on this screen. Let me just move this a little bit over, maybe like so similar to the other ones. Again, absolute positioning is not a good idea, but it will work on this simple project. And so once you're done building your UI, like say I'm happy with this, you can see this little house icon here and this little play button, so you can actually simulate your UI by switching into play mode, and then you can interact with these elements, right? But right now they don't do anything, and whichever is the green entry in your hierarchy here, that's the one that's going to start this play mode in. But again, right now none of the buttons does anything. So let's make these buttons do something. Say for the configure button here, we obviously want to switch to the configure screen, and you can do this without programming. So you just click this add event button down here, and let's say on, I don't know, configure button click. So trigger clicked, we will change screen, add. Now it adds this one action. You can add multiple actions, but in this case it's just this one. So you want to screen to the configure screen. Fade, this is just some type of animation. It doesn't really, let's just leave it on the default here, and this is just animation settings. So in this case we just want to change the screen. The same for the settings here, settings button, add event. On settings button clicked. Set property, no, we want to do change screen to the settings screen. Alright, click on the back, and then just kind of oh yeah, I added that before. Back, but it's called configure back button click. We go again, change screen. We could have done that again more intelligently, or like in a better way if I had done it first and then copied the button, but I didn't. So add events, on settings back button click. Again, go to change screen and add a new screen here. Add a main screen. Good. So we're going to save. highlight the main screen in the hierarchy, right click the play button. So now, is there not a full screen mode? No. Anyway, I remembered there being a full screen mode, but let's just test this. So configure should take me right to the configure screen, back, settings, takes you to settings, you can change this, and it should actually retain it. The same with configure, you can slide these around and, I don't know, say we want to update the time. And again, it keeps these. Let's have a look at the different, not all of them, but let's say like 1 or 2 of these animations. They're pretty neat. So, because it, as you just saw, it does not, you know, move this workspace around to show you what it looks like. It kind of just pretends this is the display. So these look pretty cool. So say you want to move left on here. Actually also move left on this one. And we want to move right on these. That's to go back. Kind of gives the user another visual cue of what's going on. Select the main screen, hit play. So configure takes you here, back takes you back. Right. It's not too exciting, but I think it's still pretty neat. And say we want this to be activated. There should be an option somewhere where we can actually, let's see, checked, right? Yeah, okay. And as you can see, you can also, you have like the typical options that you would expect. So you can disable these, say not user clickable. You can say one of the buttons is focused, like say this one. I want this to be focused, so if there were like a keyboard and you just kind of press the enter key, it would just do that right away. Right, and what else I want to do is when we press on, let's see whether that's possible. It would be pretty cool. So let's do on button press. Actually, it's like stupid because I would have to call it like that, but on button clicked. I think I called them click, right? Yeah. Kind of want to be consistent with my naming. What I want to happen is I want to disable the on button. So we want to set, I think it was flag, no, set state, modify state, add object. And this is where it really comes, you know, this is where it really pays you dividends if you name these elements properly, because you can so easily find them on here and in lists like this. So you want to have the on button disabled when we press the on, because we obviously just want to turn it on once. And we want to enable, so let's add another action. We want to enable the off button, state enabled. Okay, action remove or toggle, or like, yeah. And the same here. Actually, maybe not toggle, but remove. So remove the disabled flag, which is in turn going to enable the on button. So as for the off button, we obviously want the opposite. So off button on, off button click, and try to be somewhat consistent with your naming. And this should be state, right? Add, actually add 2. So we want the on button to be disabled, remove. So we want it to be enabled, so remove the disabled flag. And we want the off button to be disabled, add. Alright, so then we want this to start in, I think in this state, yeah, so we're just gonna disable that. Let's see whether that works. Actually, before I do that, let me save this. So this is disabled, as you can see, but by clicking the off button, it's going to disable the off here, but enables the on. Oh, that didn't work. Good. Let's just go for a little debugging here. So it should be this off button disabled, remove, yes, and oh, it unselected it here. So on button disabled add. Alright, save. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, now it functions as expected, so we can switch between these two states. And yeah, I mean, it's a very simple UI, right? But I think this should show you all the steps involved in building a simple UI like this. And I mean, there are obviously much more options and more of these elements that you can pull in. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, the program is a bit buggy in its current state. Right, so we don't want to, actually don't want to have that. So yeah, sometimes what's like especially annoying is that undoing and redoing actions like really breaks it, right? Sometimes, and that's the thing, it just sometimes happens, so you kind of get used to, you know, going back, and then it's broken. And I mean, it's irreparably broken, as you saw with like this first version here, right? Because my screen is just kind of gone that was there before, and just everything's gone, and it's like, you know, just really annoying, even though I locked it, so you know, it was even in a locked position and it's still gone. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's fine. It's like a neat little program. You can just, I mean, you can configure autosave, which seems like a good idea. Yeah, you can download it, squareline.io. It's free for 30 days, but I don't think I would actually pay for it in the current state because it's just too buggy, right? So I would really, I think I would get really mad if I like had worked on one of these projects for like, say 50, okay, maybe that's a little bit too much, but even 2 hours, right? And then you kind of just undo something, and you know, everything's gone, all your progress lost. That would really suck. I think you can export it to, yeah. Anyway, I will take a closer look at how to get this working on an Arduino actually in another video, because I think this is getting quite long at this point. So I just kind of, you know, wanted to have a nice little introduction to Squareline Studio, and I hope you found it helpful. Give it a try, it's free. It's quite fun actually. I mean, I enjoy making user interfaces. You know, feel free to let me know if I missed anything, or if you know how to fix these problems. Yeah, other than that, thanks for watching. Have fun with your own projects, and have fun building UIs using Squareline Studio.